He left me.
He left me. Those 3 words, whispered through tears and red rubber gloves, sealed a fate no one saw coming. Juanita Kamau, a cleaning lady in a 63rd floor Manhattan penthouse, believed she was invisible that rainy Tuesday afternoon. She didn't know that June Kang, 36 years old, the silent architect of New York's most dangerous empire, had returned 3 hours early. She didn't know he was standing frozen in the marble hallway, listening despite every instinct telling him to walk away. She didn't know that her broken voice, her raw pain, and that single line, "He took everything I worked for," would pierce through the armor of a man who had forgotten what mercy felt like. That afternoon, something ancient and unforgiving woke up inside him. But what neither of them knew was that her husband's betrayal had already crossed into June's world, and the debt Malik owed wasn't just to Juanita anymore. This wasn't going to be a love story. This was going to be a reckoning. Before we go any further, subscribe if you're here for the drama, hit like if you felt that hook, and tell me where are you watching from. And the real question, Team Juanita or Team June? Comment below. Now let's get into this storm. Juanita Kamau pushes open the glass door to the executive suite with the key card she's been entrusted with for 2 years. She knows every corner of this place, the cool slate floors, the sharp scent of leather and sandalwood, the way the rain blurs the skyline beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. Kang International occupies the 63rd floor of the Mercury Tower in Midtown Manhattan, 4,000 square feet of polished silence, minimalist furniture, black marble countertops, everything pristine, untouchable, like a museum where no one actually lives. Juanita sets her supply caddy down near the entrance and pulls on her red rubber gloves. She always starts with the open-plan workspace, vacuuming the charcoal carpet, wiping down the glass conference table, dusting the bookshelves lined with legal files and liquor bottles that never seem to move. She works on autopilot, her mind 1,000 miles away. For 3 weeks now, sleep has been a stranger. For 3 weeks, she's woken up gasping, her chest tight with the kind of pain that doesn't have a name. Her phone buzzes in the pocket of her uniform. She hesitates, then pulls it out. It's Amara, her cousin back in Nairobi, the only person who knows the full story. "Hello?" Juanita's voice cracks before she can stop it. "Jua, it's me. Where are you?" "At work, my Tuesday client." "You sound off. What's wrong?" And just like that, the dam breaks. The tears she's been swallowing since sunrise, since yesterday, since the moment Malik walked out the door with her future in his pocket, they all come flooding out at once. Juanita sinks onto the black leather sofa, the microfiber cloth still clutched in her hand, and she sobs. "He left me, Amara. Malik left me, and he took everything." The words pour out in gasps, messy and unfiltered. She doesn't hear the elevator doors open down the hall. She doesn't hear the footsteps, slow, measured, deliberate. She doesn't hear the man who owns this entire floor stop just outside the room, his hand hovering over the door handle, his expression unreadable. June Kang stands in the shadows of his own hallway and listens to a woman he's never truly seen fall apart in his sanctuary. And for the first time in a decade, something inside him, something he thought he'd buried with his mother, begins to stir. June Kang doesn't move. Not when Juanita's voice breaks into fragments. Not when her sobs echo against the marble and glass like something sacred being shattered. He stands in the threshold of his own domain, a man who has built empires on the bones of those who underestimated silence, and he listens. The rain streaks down the windows behind her, casting fractured shadows across her trembling shoulders. She's still wearing those red gloves, still clutching that cloth like it's the only thing tethering her to reality. And for reasons June can't name, won't name, he feels something shift beneath his ribs, something old and buried and dangerous. He's heard confessions before, men begging for mercy they don't deserve, women offering secrets in exchange for protection. But this raw, unguarded grief from a woman who doesn't know she's being witnessed, it cuts through him like a blade made of ice. She says the name again, Malik, and June's jaw tightens. He knows that name, not intimately, but enough. Malik Thompson, a small-time social climber who's been circling the edges of June's world like a moth too stupid to recognize the flame. June had flagged him 3 months ago when his accountant noticed irregularities in a shell company tied to one of June's shipping routes. Nothing significant, just enough to warrant monitoring. But now, hearing this woman's anguish, June realizes Malik's crimes run deeper than corporate fraud. Juanita ends the call with a shaky breath, and June watches as she tries to compose herself. She wipes her face with the back of her gloved hand, smearing tears across her brown skin. Her hair, thick, natural, pulled back into a low bun, has loosened slightly, curls escaping near her temples. She looks exhausted, defeated. And yet, when she stands and picks up her cleaning supplies, there's a stubborn set to her shoulders that June recognizes. Survivors always carry that weight. He should know. He's been carrying it since he was 12 years old, watching his mother scrub floors in silence while men in expensive suits pretended she didn't exist. June steps back before she can see him. He moves through his penthouse like a ghost, his footsteps swallowed by the thick carpet. He retreats to his study, a room lined with dark wood and darker secrets, and closes the door behind him. His pulse is steady. His mind is already 3 steps ahead. He pulls his phone from the inner pocket of his suit jacket and dials a number he rarely uses. It rings once before a low, gravelly voice answers. June, I need a file on someone. Malik Thompson. Everything. Bank records, phone logs, associations, debts. I want to know where he sleeps, what he eats, and who he's trying to impress. There's a pause on the other end. Then, a quiet chuckle. This personal? June's gaze drifts to the frosted glass panel that separates his study from the main office. Through it, he can see Juanita's silhouette as she moves methodically through the space, restoring order to a world that has shown her none. Just do it, he says, and ends the call. He doesn't question why he's doing this. Men like June don't waste time on introspection. They see a problem. They eliminate it. But as he watches Juanita's shadow move across the glass, he knows this isn't just about eliminating a problem. This is about something far more dangerous. This is about balance, about justice, about making sure the invisible are finally seen. 24 hours later, Jun sits in his study with a dossier that turns his blood cold. Malik Thompson isn't just a cheat. He's a parasite. The file reveals a pattern of financial abuse that spans 2 years. Juanita Kamau, 32, Kenyan immigrant, green card holder, has been systematically drained. Her savings, earned through double shifts, cleaning offices, and weekend catering gigs, funneled into Malik's lifestyle. Designer clothes, a lease on a luxury sedan, a deposit on an engagement ring for a woman named Simone Laurent, a socialite whose family owns half the galleries in Soho. The numbers are brutal. $63,000. Gone. And Malik has covered his tracks with joint accounts, forged signatures, and a charm offensive that would make a con artist weep with envy. But what makes June's fingers tighten around the folder is the final page, a restraining order filed by Malik against Juanita 3 days ago. False allegations of harassment, a legal maneuver designed to silence her before she can report the theft. The document is still pending, but if it goes through, Juanita could lose everything. Her job, her credibility, her ability to fight back. June closes the file and sets it on his desk with the care of a man handling a loaded weapon. Then he makes another call. This time, it's answered on the first ring. I need a lawyer. Criminal defense. Immigration specialist. Discreet. Send them to my office tomorrow afternoon. And cancel my meetings for the rest of the week. He hangs up before there's a response. Because there's no need to explain. In June's world, orders are absolute. He leans back in his chair, steepling his fingers beneath his chin, and stares at the rain lashing against the windows. He thinks about his mother. About the way she used to come home with her hands cracked and bleeding, her back bent from hours of scrubbing other people's filth. He thinks about the man who owned the building where she worked, a landlord who raised her rent every 6 months until she couldn't afford food. Jun had been too young to help her then, too powerless. But he's not powerless now. Tuesday arrives with the weight of inevitability. Juanita enters the penthouse at 2 o'clock, just like always. She's wearing the same uniform, black slacks, a plain gray polo with the cleaning company's logo embroidered on the chest. But today, there are shadows under her eyes that makeup can't hide. She moves through the space with mechanical precision, her mind clearly elsewhere. June watches from his study, the door open just enough to track her movements. He's planned this carefully. The timing, the approach. He knows fear when he sees it, and he won't add to hers. Not yet. When she finishes the living area and moves toward the hallway, June steps out of his study. She freezes. Her eyes widen, and for a moment, he sees the flash of panic, the instinct to apologize, to shrink, to become invisible again. But June doesn't let her retreat. He holds up a hand, palm out, a gesture of peace. Miss Kamau, he says, his voice low and controlled. I'm not here to reprimand you. She blinks, her grip tightening on the handle of her supply caddy. I didn't know you'd be home, Mr. Kang. I can come back. No. The word is firm, but not harsh. Stay. Please. He gestures toward the seating area. the same black leather sofa where she broke down 24 hours ago. "I'd like to speak with you. It'll only take a moment." Juanita hesitates, and June can see the calculations running behind her eyes. She's weighing the risks, wondering if this is the moment she loses her job, wondering what he knows. He waits, patient as a predator, until she finally nods and sets down her supplies. She doesn't sit. She stands near the sofa, her posture stiff, her hands clasped in front of her. June moves closer, but keeps a respectful distance. He's learned that power isn't just about dominance, it's about knowing when to give space. "I overheard your phone call," he says simply. "Last week. I wasn't eavesdropping. I came home early and I heard you." Her face drains of color. "Mr. Kang, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have." "You have nothing to apologize for." His tone cuts through her panic like a knife. "But I need you to understand something. What I heard, it concerns me." He reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a business card. It's black, embossed with silver lettering. A name, a phone number, nothing else. He holds it out to her. "This is a lawyer, one of the best in the city. Call her, today. Tell her I sent you." Juanita stares at the card like it might bite her. "I don't understand." "You don't have to," June says quietly. "Not yet." Juanita doesn't take the card. Not at first. She looks at Jun like he's a puzzle she can't solve, and maybe that's exactly what he is. A man in a $10,000 suit offering help to a woman in a $15 uniform. It doesn't make sense. Nothing about this makes sense. But June has learned that logic is the enemy of survival. And right now, Juanita needs to survive more than she needs to understand. "Why?" she asks, her voice barely above a whisper. It's the right question, the only question that matters, and June respects her for asking it. He could lie, tell her it's charity, tell her he's a philanthropist with a soft spot for hard luck cases. But lies have a way of rotting from the inside out, and June has built his empire on brutal honesty, at least with those who earn it. "Because I know what it's like to watch someone you trust destroy you," he says, his gaze steady on hers. "And I know what it's like to have no one in your corner when it happens." There's a flicker of something in her eyes. Recognition. Maybe even kinship. She takes the card, her fingers brushing his for the briefest moment, and June feels the current of it, the spark of two damaged souls colliding in the dark. "Thank you," she whispers. Then, because she's stronger than she realizes, she adds, "But I don't need saving, Mr. Kang." June's mouth curves into something that might be a smile if he remembered how. "Good. Because I'm not offering salvation, miss. Kamau, I'm offering war." The word hangs in the air between them, sharp and gleaming. Juanita's breath catches, and John watches the shift happen in real time. The fear in her eyes hardens into something else, something fiercer. She tucks the card into her pocket, nods once, and goes back to work. June returns to his study, but he doesn't close the door. He listens to the sound of her moving through his space, restoring order with steady hands, and he knows, with the same certainty that has kept him alive in a world that devours the weak, that Juanita Kamau is about to become the most dangerous piece on his board. 3 days pass. June doesn't see Juanita again, but he receives a text from his lawyer. She called. Meeting scheduled. That's all he needs to know. He spends those 3 days doing what he does best, gathering ammunition. His people dig deeper into Malik's life, and what they find is a masterclass in arrogance. Malik has been bragging, to friends, to colleagues, to Simone's social circle. He's been painting Juanita as a delusional ex who can't accept that he's moved on. He's been mocking her accent, her job, her desperation. Jun reads the transcripts of intercepted phone calls and feels his control slip for the first time in years. He wants to hurt Malik, badly. But Jun is a strategist, not a thug. Violence is easy. Public humiliation is an art form. On the 4th day, June receives another message. This time, it's from Juanita herself. A single line. "Can we meet?" June stares at the text for a long moment. Then he replies, "My office. 7 p.m. I'll have dinner sent up." He doesn't ask if she's ready. He doesn't warn her about the cost of the path she's choosing, because Juanita Kamau has already paid more than any person should have to, and June is about to make sure she collects every cent, with interest. Juanita arrives at 7 on the dot, and June realizes immediately that something has changed. She's not wearing her uniform. She's dressed in jeans and a simple black sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders in thick, natural curls. She looks younger like this, softer. But when she meets his gaze across the expanse of his office, June sees the steel beneath the surface. She's made her decision. Now it's his turn to honor it. Sit, he says, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. She does, crossing her legs at the ankle, her hands folded in her lap. The lawyer gave her the full picture then. June can see it in the set of her jaw. Your lawyer told me what Malik's been saying about me. Juanita begins, her voice steady. She also told me what you found. The money, the restraining order, all of it. June nods. And I want to know what happens next. June leans forward, elbows on the desk, his gaze locked on hers. Next, we dismantle him, piece by piece, publicly, legally, completely. But I need to know you're prepared for that. Because once we start, there's no turning back. Malik will fight. He'll lie. He'll try to drag you through the mud. Can you handle that? Juanita doesn't flinch. He already dragged me through the mud, Mr. Kang. I'm just returning the favor. June's lips curve into a predator's grin. Then let's get to work. He opens a folder and slides it across the desk. Inside are documents, bank statements, affidavits, recorded phone calls, evidence of every crime Malik has committed. Juanita pages through them, her expression unreadable, and June watches the moment she realizes the scope of what he's offering her. This isn't just legal defense. This is total warfare. Why are you doing this? She asks again, looking up at him. And this time, June tells her the truth. Because no one did it for my mother. The words sit heavy in the air. Juanita studies him, really looks at him, and June lets her. He doesn't hide the scars, doesn't soften the edges. She deserves to know exactly who she's aligning herself with. Okay, she says finally. Tell me the plan. June does. He walks her through every step. The forensic audit that will expose Malik's embezzlement, the counter-restraining order that will flip the script, the strategic leaks to Simone's family, ensuring Malik loses his social leverage, and finally, the coup de grace, a public event where Malik's lies will unravel in front of everyone who matters. Juanita listens without interrupting, and when June finishes, she asks only one question. When? 2 weeks, June says. Malik is attending a charity gala. Simone's family is hosting. He thinks he's untouchable. We're going to prove him wrong. Juanita nods slowly. Then she stands, extends her hand across the desk. Thank you, Jun. It's the first time she's used his first name, and the sound of it in her voice does something to him he didn't expect. He takes her hand, feels the calluses on her palm, the evidence of a life spent working twice as hard for half the recognition, and makes a silent vow. Malik Thompson has no idea what's coming for him. As Juanita turns to leave, June calls after her. One more thing. She pauses at the door, glancing back. When this is over, Jun says quietly, You're going to need a new job. I'd like to offer you one. Not cleaning. Something better. Think about it. Juanita's eyes narrow slightly, suspicious and intrigued all at once. What kind of job? June's smile is slow, dangerous, the kind where you never have to be invisible again. The gala is 2 weeks away, but Jun doesn't waste a single hour. He moves like a man conducting a symphony of destruction, each note precisely timed, each instrument tuned to ruin. Juanita doesn't see him during those first few days. She goes to work at her other clients' offices, scrubs floors, wipes down counters, and pretends her life isn't about to detonate. But every night, she receives a text from an unknown number. Updates, progress reports, evidence mounting like a guillotine blade, being raised inch by deliberate inch. June's people are thorough. They trace every dollar Malik stole, every lie he told, every woman he charmed before Juanita. Turns out, she wasn't his first victim, just his most profitable one. On day 6, Juanita receives a package at her apartment. No return address. Inside is a dress. Deep emerald green, silk that feels like water against her fingertips, and a note in sharp, masculine handwriting. For the gala. Wear this. Trust me. She should be offended. She should throw it back in his face and tell him she's not some doll he can dress up for his revenge fantasy. But when she holds the dress up to her body and looks in the mirror, she sees something she hasn't seen in months. Possibility, power, a version of herself that Malik tried to erase. She hangs the dress in her closet and doesn't text back. June will know she's accepted. Men like him always know. Day 9 brings the first crack in Malik's armor. Simone Laurent, his socialite fiancée, receives an anonymous email. Bank statements. Screenshots of text messages between Malik and 3 other women, all sent during his engagement. Photos of Malik at hotels he claimed were business trips. Simone is old money, the kind that values reputation above all else. She doesn't confront Malik. She simply stops answering his calls. When he shows up at her penthouse, Her doorman turns him away. Malik doesn't understand what's happening yet, but he's starting to feel the ground shift beneath him. June watches it all unfold from his office, a glass of whiskey in his hand, and allows himself a moment of satisfaction. This is just the overture. The real performance hasn't even begun. Day 11. Juanita meets June at his penthouse after hours. It's almost midnight. The city sprawls beneath them, a constellation of lights and secrets. June is waiting for her in the living room, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, looking less like a businessman and more like what he actually is, a predator. Juanita walks in wearing jeans and a leather jacket, her hair pulled back, no makeup, and June thinks she's never looked more dangerous. "We need to talk about the gala," June says, pouring her a drink without asking. "Whiskey, neat." He hands it to her and their fingers brush. The contact lingers half a second too long. Juanita notices. So does he. She takes a sip, grimaces slightly, then takes another. "What about it?" June moves to the window, his back to her, giving her space to breathe. Malik will be desperate by then. Simone's family has already started distancing themselves. His credit cards are being declined. The walls are closing in. Desperate men do stupid things. "You think he'll come after me? It's not a question." June turns, his expression unreadable. "I think he'll try, which is why you won't be alone. From now until the gala, you'll have security. 2 of my men, discreet but present." Juanita sets her glass down, hard. "I didn't agree to be babysat. You agreed to let me help you." June counters, his voice dropping to something quieter, more dangerous. "This is part of the help. Malik already filed a false restraining order. What's to stop him from escalating?" The question hangs between them like smoke. Juanita knows he's right, but admitting it feels like surrender. She crosses her arms, defensive, and June sees the stubborn tilt of her chin. He's starting to recognize her tells. "Fine," she says finally, "but they stay outside. I'm not having bodyguards in my apartment." Jun nods. "Agreed." Silence settles, thick and charged. Juanita should leave. It's late. She has work in the morning. But she doesn't move, and neither does June. They're orbiting each other. 2 damaged planets caught in the same gravitational pull, and neither knows how to break free. Or if they even want to. "Can I ask you something?" Juanita's voice is softer now, almost vulnerable. June inclines his head. "Your mother, you said no one helped her. What happened to her?" June's jaw tightens. For a moment, she thinks he won't answer. Then he does, and his voice is stripped of everything except truth. "She worked herself to death, literally. Heart attack at 47. The man who owned the building where she worked raised her rent so high she was taking triple shifts just to survive. I was 16. I couldn't save her, but I made sure he paid for it." Juanita's breath catches. "What did you do?" June's smile is cold, empty. "I bought his building, evicted him, bought every property he owned after that, bankrupted him. He died homeless 3 years later. The brutality of it should scare her. Instead, Juanita feels something else entirely. Understanding, recognition. This is who June is. A man who doesn't forgive, a man who doesn't forget, a man who turns grief into weapons and wields them with surgical precision. And God help her. She's starting to think she might be exactly the same. "Thank you for telling me," she whispers. June crosses the distance between them in 3 strides. He stops close enough that she has to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Close enough that she can smell the whiskey on his breath, the faint trace of his cologne, something dark and woodsy that makes her think of smoke and secrets. "You don't have to thank me, Juanita," he says, her name rolling off his tongue like a promise. "Just trust me." She looks up at him, this dangerous, broken man who's decided her pain is worth avenging, and realizes she already does. That's the terrifying part. She trusts him more than she ever trusted Malik, and she barely knows him. Or maybe that's exactly why. The night before the gala, Juanita can't sleep. She lies in her small studio apartment, staring at the ceiling, listening to the city hum outside her window. The dress hangs on her closet door like a ghost of who she's about to become. Tomorrow, everything changes. Tomorrow, Malik loses. Tomorrow, she wins. But victory tastes strange in her mouth, metallic and sharp, and she wonders if this is how June feels all the time. Powerful, untouchable, empty. Her phone buzzes. A text from June. "You awake?" She stares at it for a long moment before replying. "Yes." 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again. Then, come to the roof. Juanita sits up. Her building has a roof access, but she's never used it. It's technically off limits. But June's text doesn't sound like a request. It sounds like a need. She pulls on sweatpants and a hoodie, slips her feet into sneakers, and climbs the 5 flights of stairs to the roof door. It's unlocked. When she steps outside, she finds June standing at the edge, hands in his pockets, staring out at the skyline. He's not wearing a suit, just dark jeans and a black sweater. He looks younger like this, almost human. "How did you even get up here?" she asks, walking toward him. June glances back, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "I own the building." Juanita stops dead. "You what?" "I bought it last week. The previous owner was raising rents, evicting tenants. Didn't sit well with me." He says it casually, like he's talking about buying groceries, not an entire building. Juanita doesn't know whether to laugh or scream. "So what? I'm living in one of your properties now?" "No," June says, turning to face her fully. "You're living rent-free in one of my properties now. Retroactive to the day I bought it. You'll get a check for the last 6 months. Juanita's chest tightens. "June, I can't accept that." "You can. You will." His tone leaves no room for argument. "Consider it restitution for what Malik stole. A down payment." She wants to fight him on this, wants to maintain some shred of independence. But the truth is, Malik cleaned her out. She's been living paycheck to paycheck, one emergency away from disaster. Jun's offer isn't charity, it's a lifeline. And maybe, just maybe, it's something more. An apology for a system that let men like Malik thrive, while women like her and June's mother broke themselves trying to survive. "Why are you really doing this?" Juanita asks, stepping closer. "And don't give me the line about your mother. There's more to it than that." June studies her, his gaze intense enough to strip her bare. Then he does something unexpected. He reaches out and tucks a loose curl behind her ear. The touch is feather-light, almost reverent, and it sends a shiver down Juanita's spine that has nothing to do with the cold. "Because when I heard you crying in my office," June says quietly, "I heard my mother. I heard every woman who's ever been made invisible. And I realized I've spent 10 years building an empire, but I've never used it for anything that mattered. You matter, Juanita." The words land like a punch. Juanita's eyes sting, and she blinks hard against the tears. No one has said that to her in so long. Not Malik. Not her family back in Kenya who think she's living the American dream. No one. June's hand is still near her face, hovering, and Juanita makes a decision that will either save her or destroy her. She leans into his touch. June's breath hitches. His thumb brushes her cheekbone, and the air between them ignites. This is dangerous. This is stupid. This is everything she swore she wouldn't do after Malik. But June isn't Malik. June sees her. June listens. June has turned himself into a weapon on her behalf, and she's starting to realize that's the most seductive thing anyone has ever done for her. "Tomorrow," June murmurs, his voice rough, "Malik loses everything, and you get to watch. But after that," he trails off, and Juanita finishes the thought. "After that, what happens to us?" June's eyes darken. "That's up to you." He's giving her the choice, the power. After months of having none, it's intoxicating. Juanita rises on her toes, closing the distance until there's nothing between them but breath and intention. "What if I don't want to choose?" she whispers. "What if I just want to feel something other than broken?" June's control fractures. She sees it in the way his jaw clenches, the way his hand moves from her face to the back of her neck, fingers threading through her hair. "Then feel this," he says, and kisses her. It's not gentle. It's not soft. It's a collision of two people who've spent too long denying themselves anything good, and it tastes like whiskey and rage, and something dangerously close to hope. Juanita grabs the front of his sweater, pulling him closer, and June responds by lifting her off her feet, backing her against the rooftop wall. The brick is cold against her back, but June is heat and hunger and everything she didn't know she needed. When they finally break apart, both breathless, June rests his forehead against hers. "We should stop," he says, but he doesn't move. Juanita laughs, shaky and raw. "We should, but we won't." Jun's smile is wicked. "No, we won't." They stay like that, tangled together under the New York sky, two broken people gluing each other back together with the shards. And for the first time in months, Juanita feels whole. The gala is everything Juanita imagined hell would look like if it wore designer labels and sipped champagne. The venue is the Laurent Estate, a sprawling mansion on Long Island that screams old money and older sins. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, a string quartet playing something classical and soulless. Juanita arrives on June's arm, and the moment they step through the entrance, Every conversation in the room stutters to a halt. She knows what they see. A cleaning lady in a dress that fits her like a second skin, escorted by one of the most feared men in New York. The scandal of it all. The audacity. Juanita holds her head high and lets them stare. June's hand rests on the small of her back, possessive and grounding, and she draws strength from the contact. Malik is near the bar, glass in hand, laughing too loud at something a nervous-looking businessman said. He hasn't seen her yet. Simone is conspicuously absent. According to June's intel, she's in the Hamptons, as far from this disaster as money can buy. Malik's engagement is over, his reputation hanging by a thread. But he doesn't know the worst is yet to come. June leans down, his lips brushing Juanita's ear. You ready? She nods. Let's end this. They move through the crowd like sharks through water. People part for Jun automatically, their fear of him outweighing their curiosity. When they reach the bar, Jun orders 2 drinks. That's when Malik finally notices them. The blood drains from his face. Juanita? His voice cracks on her name. She turns slowly, deliberately, and watches him take in the dress, the diamonds at her throat, on loan from June, each one a small fortune, and the man standing beside her. Hello, Malik. Her voice is steady, cold, nothing like the woman who used to beg him to love her. Malik's eyes dart between her and June, his brain scrambling to make sense of it. What are you doing here? You can't be here. Actually, June interjects, his tone pleasant but lethal. She's my guest. You have a problem with that? Malik's mouth opens, closes. He's not stupid enough to challenge June directly. We need to talk. Malik hisses at Juanita, grabbing her arm. Big mistake. June moves so fast, Juanita barely sees it. One moment Malik's hand is on her, the next it's twisted behind his back, and June has him bent over the bar, his face pressed against the polished wood. The room goes silent. Touch her again, June says quietly, and you'll lose the hand. Understood? Malik nods frantically, and June releases him. Malik stumbles back, cradling his wrist, humiliation burning in his eyes. You crazy bitch. He spits at Juanita. You think you can ruin me? I'll destroy you. I'll have you deported. I'll hear. You'll do nothing. The voice comes from behind them. Juanita turns to see a woman in her 50s, impeccably dressed, flanked by 2 men in suits. She recognizes her from the photos June showed her. Simone's mother, head of the Laurent family, and from the look on Malik's face, his worst nightmare made flesh. Mrs. Laurent doesn't acknowledge Malik. She addresses Jun instead. Mr. Kang, a pleasure. June inclines his head. Mrs. Laurent, thank you for accommodating my request. Anything for a business partner? She replies smoothly. Then she turns to Malik, and her expression turns glacial. Mr. Thompson, you're no longer welcome here. Security will escort you out. Malik's face goes red. You can't do this. I'm a guest. You were a guest, Mrs. Laurent corrects, before we discovered you've been embezzling from our charitable foundation. The funds you claimed were donations? Funneled into your personal accounts. We've already contacted the authorities. The room erupts in whispers. Malik's eyes go wide with panic. That's a lie. I didn't. We have forensic evidence, June says calmly, pulling a folder from inside his jacket. He hands it to Mrs. Laurent, who doesn't even look at it. She knows what's inside. June made sure of that 3 days ago. There's also the matter of the fraud committed against Miss Kamau here. $63,000. We have the paper trail, bank statements, forged signatures, all of it. Malik's face crumbles. He looks at Juanita, and for a brief moment, she sees the man she thought she loved, the man who promised her forever, but that man never existed. He was a mask, and now the mask is gone. Juanita, please, he whispers. Don't do this. I'll pay you back. I swear. Juanita steps forward. She wants to feel triumph, wants to feel vindicated. But all she feels is tired. Tired of carrying his betrayal. Tired of letting him take up space in her head. You should have thought about that before you tried to erase me, she says softly. Then she turns her back on him and walks away. June follows, and behind them, they hear security dragging Malik out, his protests fading into the night. The aftermath is swift and brutal. Malik is arrested 2 days later. The charges: embezzlement, fraud, identity theft. The DA, a woman who Jun happens to know personally, is pursuing the case aggressively. Malik's assets are frozen, his apartment is seized. The socialite life he tried to buy crumbles into dust, and he's left with nothing. Exactly what he deserves. Juanita watches it unfold from a distance, June's penthouse becoming her refuge as the media circus explodes. Turns out, The story of a cleaning lady taking down a con artist with the help of a mysterious billionaire is too juicy for the tabloids to resist. Juanita's face is everywhere. So is June's. They weather it together. 3 months pass. Malik is sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. The judge, a stern woman with no patience for men who prey on vulnerable women, makes an example of him. Juanita is there for the sentencing. So is June. When the gavel falls, she feels something inside her finally let go. Not forgiveness. Never that. But release. Malik no longer has power over her. He's just a man in an orange jumpsuit. And she's the woman who survived him. After the courthouse, June drives her to the Hudson River. They stand on the pier, watching the water move, and Juanita breathes in the cold air, feeling lighter than she has in years. "What now?" June asks. It's the question that's been sitting between them for weeks. They've been living in this strange limbo. Their kiss on the rooftop, never repeated but never forgotten. Juanita doesn't know what they are to each other. Allies, friends, something more dangerous. "I don't know," she admits. "I've spent so long fighting, I forgot what it's like to just exist." June turns to her, his expression softer than she's ever seen it. "Then exist. Here. With me." It's not a command. It's an invitation. Juanita looks at him, this ruthless, damaged man who burned down her enemy's life because he couldn't save his mother, and realizes she's in love with him. Maybe she has been since that first night on the rooftop. Maybe since the moment he handed her a business card and declared war on her behalf. "What about the job you mentioned?" she asks, deflecting because she's not ready to say the words out loud yet. Jun's smile is slow. "I meant it. I'm starting a foundation. For immigrant women facing domestic and financial abuse, legal aid, housing, job placement. I want you to run it." Juanita's breath catches. "June, I'm not qualified." "You're the most qualified person I know," he interrupts. "You've lived it. You survived it. Who better to help others do the same?" Tears prick her eyes. "I don't know what to say. Say yes." And she does, because how can she not? This man has given her everything: justice, safety, purpose, and maybe, if she's brave enough, love. They seal it with a kiss, soft and slow this time, the kind that promises tomorrows instead of just surviving today's. When they pull apart, June rests his forehead against hers. "I need to tell you something," he murmurs. "What?" "I bought your old apartment building. The one Malik lived in." Juanita laughs, incredulous. "Of course you did. I'm tearing it down, building something better. A housing complex for low-income families, affordable rent, quality construction. I'm naming it after my mother." Juanita's heart cracks open. "June." "Her name was Minseo," he continues, his voice rough. "She would have liked you." Juanita pulls him close, holding him the way no one held him when he was 16 and powerless, and watching his mother die. "I would have liked her too," she whispers. They stand there, two broken people who found each other in the wreckage, and build something new. Not perfect, never perfect, but real, true, theirs. 6 months later, the foundation opens. Juanita stands at the ribbon-cutting ceremony in a tailored suit, June beside her, and looks out at the faces of the women they're about to help. Women like her, women like Minseo, women who deserve to be seen. The cleaning lady doesn't clean floors anymore. She changes lives. And the Mafia boss? He's still ruthless. Still dangerous. But now he has something worth protecting. Someone who sees past the monster to the man underneath. As they leave the ceremony, hands intertwined, Juanita realizes this was never just about revenge. It was about reclaiming power, about refusing to stay invisible, about building a life where love doesn't cost everything and trust doesn't end in betrayal. Malik took $63,000 from her. June gave her the world. And together, they're going to make sure no one else has to choose between survival and dignity ever again. That's the real victory, the one that lasts. But this isn't the end. Not really. Because in the shadows of June's empire, old enemies are watching, and they've just realized the Mafia boss has a weakness now. Someone he'd burn the world for. And that makes her a target. The game has changed. The stakes are higher. And Juanita is about to learn that love in June's world doesn't come with safety. It comes with war. If you need to see how Juanita and June survive what comes next, you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button, hit the like, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and whether you're ready for part 2. Because trust me, you're going to want to see what happens when June's enemies come for the woman he loves. This story isn't over. It's just beginning.